Welcome back. You're watching Gravitas. The island nation of Maldives is bracing for choppy political waters. In 3 days from now, a unified opposition will push for a no-confidence vote against President Abdullah Yameen. And India is watching very closely because what happens on Monday will have implications on the larger geopolitical equations in this region. Former President Mohammad Nasheed, who lost a controversial runoff election 2 years back, has said that the opposition will terminate all Chinese projects in the country if it comes to power. This is an extremely significant statement given the current president's relationship with India and China. Remember, Maldives is the only South Asian country Prime Minister Modi has not visited. He cancelled, in fact, his visit in 2015. Maldives joined China's maritime Silk Route and is a key part of the Belt and Road Initiative. President Yameen has allotted 16 islands to China along key navigation sea lanes. Beijing is involved in major construction projects amid fears that Maldives will end up like Sri Lanka. In fact, 70% of the island nation's foreign debt is to China. Maldives' loan interest exceeds its joint expenditure on health and education and more than 20% of its budget. Maldives has become key to China's territorial ambitions in the region, though. On Monday, the opposition wants to impeach the speaker, but it may not be so easy. The last time they tried it, remember, President Yameen evicted opposition MPs. That was in March this year. Over the last few days, though, the landscape has changed further. 10 defections saw Yameen lose his 48-seat majority in the 85-seat parliament. The four-party opposition coalition now holds 45 seats. Old rivals Nasheed and former President Abdul Gayoom have joined hands to in fact, act against the incumbent. The arrest of Gayoom's son last week sparked protests and international condemnation. And we are joined by none other than Mohammad Nasheed, the former president of the Maldives. He's joining us live from Sri Lanka this evening. Good evening, Mr. Nasheed. Thank you very much for being with us here on Gravitas. My first question to you, sir, what does the opposition plan to do on Monday?
Good evening and thank you very much. You would remember that President Yameen came to government in a coalition and that coalition has fallen apart. President Gayoom, his own brother, and other two parties that were with President Yameen has crossed over and joined the opposition. Recently, we also had local council elections where we won a landslide victory and Yameen did incredibly badly. And with this now losing support in the parliament and, of course, in the country, we feel that it is now possible for us to impeach first the Speaker of the House. And we are going to move against the Speaker on Monday. But of course, President Yameen would have a lot of tactics and a lot of antics in his sleeves, under his sleeves, and he would be acting illegally and unlawfully. We understand that. But we feel that the people of the Maldives are ready for this. We feel that they will stand up to President Yameen, and we are hopeful that we are going to win it.
We all remember what happened in March. So, as I said in my introduction, it won't be easy, the impeachment and whatever else you plan to do. What gives him this confidence? Do you believe he's aided by people from outside?
Well, certainly he has very close relationship with countries that have similar dispensations, especially single-party states or dictatorships. He has a very strong, President Yameen has a very strong link and a relationship with the government of China and also the government of Saudi Arabia. And of course, he's been assisted financially and otherwise by these countries. And this is, in fact, therefore, proving to be very, very difficult.
And you've been quoted as saying that you will scrap all China projects if the opposition comes to power.
Well, much of the projects given to the Chinese companies were done without due process, and it was done illegally, and therefore they are not legally binding sovereign agreements as such. When we come into government, we must reassess these projects, and we don't think that they were contracted according to law. Therefore, it must be reviewed and we must terminate these contracts.
How do you see China's Belt and Road Initiative in your country? After all, they are engaged in a lot of developmental projects. So why do you think it's harmful for your country?
Well, we are now in a situation where more than 70% of our total international debt is to a single country. And the interest on this is very high. Education, the amount we spend on education and health combined doesn't match the interest payments that we have to make. More than 20% of our budget goes to debt service. So we are increasingly being caught in a debt trap. And all these loans, tied loans, does not necessarily assist us in development, but more take us down a debt trap.
You and former President Gayoom were once political adversaries. When you say that the opposition, if comes to power, is going to do all of this, are you all on board?
Yes, I think I am with the view that President Gayoom himself do understand that we must get the country back on a democratic track, and that would be in the advantage for the future generations and also for the people of the Maldives now. Yes, we do have a clear understanding. We do have a program, and we have an agreement on running that program, and hopefully we will do it when we come into government.
What role, if any, do you see for India here?
Well, India is the biggest democracy in the world, and protection of human rights and rule of law, and to make sure that democratic principles run in the Maldives would be in India's interest. We must understand that the Maldives is 800 kilometers running from north to south. It covers most of the navigable parts of the Indian Ocean. Indian security and Indian safety and security we must be mindful about India's safety and security, and therefore we must make sure that we maintain stability in the Indian Ocean. We cannot be party to an ongoing conflict with emerging powers in the Indian Ocean. So therefore, my view and our view is that we must not take such a one-sided stand on Indian Ocean issues or international issues. Traditionally, we've had an India first foreign policy, and that is because it is in the interest of the Maldives to have an India first foreign policy. Maldives would gain far more when we have amicable understandings and good relationship with India.
Right. All those statements are welcome, but I want to bring to your notice or to remind you of some uncomfortable moments that you've also had with the previous Indian governments. Do you think that has changed? Do you think if you or your opposition coalition were to come to power, you'd be able to work with the current dispensation better?
Certainly, far better. Our view has been that back in 2012, India read the story wrong. Yes, of course, there was a situation when the government allowed a Chinese ambassador in the Maldives, but that is not that is not the same as giving strategic locations and strategic construction contracts to other countries. We have a very clear view of where we want to go and how we want to do it, and that takes India very much into consideration. We say this because we believe that this would be in the interest of the people of the Maldives. Maldives will flourish when India is secure and safe, and that's very obvious. We are neighbors, everyone else is too far away, and historically we have always been assisted by the people of India, by the Indian government. We watch the same films, we eat the same food, we look the same, and we are the same. And we must stand with each other when we are in pressure and under pressure.
Maldives, we understand, has also become integral to China's Belt and Road Initiative. When you talk about reversing policies, are you saying that you're going to pull out because that is going to affect China's ambitions, territorial ambitions in the region significantly, and there is going to be immense pressure, I'm assuming?
Well, while we were in government in 2011, especially in 2010 and 2011, the same proposals were made, but we rejected them. And we did not want to be a party to the Silk Road. And we still don't think that it is in the interest of the people of the Maldives to be party to that. And we will certainly pull out of it.
Right. My final question to you, how is the current president, Mr. Yamin, currently placed? Of course, politically, he doesn't have the numbers, but he has the might, and he's proven himself to be a political survivor in the past.
Well, he's been around, but I wouldn't call him a political survivor. Yes, of course, he's been in government for 3 years now. But during those 3 years, he has arrested every single opposition leader. He has also arrested his own nephew last week. And he has arrested a number of his own ministers, his own vice presidents, and his own judges, and so on. So we do not see President Yamin as having strength and as having a network that would enable him to remain in government. We have a situation where we believe that even the security forces in the Maldives would understand what is going on, and they would not take a side in these political issues.
Are you hoping for an early election? And what kind of public support do you enjoy?
Well, as I said, we won the local council elections in a landslide. We are hoping for scheduled elections in 2018. We're not asking for early elections, but we are asking for the resignation of the president and the vice president, according to the constitution, to take over. And this has happened in the past as well. I resigned, I was forced to resign, and then the vice president took over. He ran all the way up until the scheduled elections, and we had the scheduled elections. We do not see why this cannot happen again. And I do not see how else we would be able to save the country.
All right. Mohammed Nasheed, the former president of the Maldives, thanks very much for joining us, sir, and all the best to you. And we will be tracking developments in the Maldives. Monday is when they're pushing for the impeachment of the speaker, and that is a beginning if that happens.